with a topic like this, how long do people actually live? Let us touch again on the question of human nature, but now on a physical level, and I can never put myself in a better position than when I let mysticism become physical. I'll start right away when I did Tai Chi Qigong. I was a part of my near-death experience and I thought everyone was as clairvoyant as me. I was very upset inside when Mantak Chia said that his master was White Cloud. And he lived in the Chinese mountains at that time and was over 240 years old when Mantak Chia was his student. I thought I'd leave the room immediately, so that was, so to speak, the first lie in quotation marks that I had to swallow with indignation, because everyone didn't care if I was just a professor and doing my exercises. I just wanted to get healthy. But unfortunately, I was already moving in such gradients back then and thought, I'm a theology professor and I study the supernatural. And it was really about prana, about stories that in Chinese markets, the Qigong masters advertise that their amulets are the best. For example, if you materialize a goldfish into a coconut and then throw the coconut on the ground, it will burst open, and the goldfish wiggles out of the middle of the coconut. Or another master stands there and had massive irons and horseshoes thrown at him and they simply stuck to his body. You can see how hard my mystical beginning in groups was. So this is now a physical side of mysticism, and of course it is also for the Protestant Church. I don't know the other ones so well. Offensive, as soon as something like that appears in Bible texts, you hear it in the sermon, it's not meant that way. It's a symbol. Jesus cannot heal the sick at all. Jesus cannot multiply bread at all. Jesus cannot walk on water at all. Jesus cannot be clairvoyant at all. In theology, this is called Easter community formation, which means that it was only attributed to him after his death, so that his followers would claim that he was something special. I grew up with theology and came to my Asian mystics. And at some point I didn't care when it came to approaching light and things like that. So a lack of food, protective fields that resist chemicals and lightning, my solution was it just scared me. And I ran away. Done 10 times, and then you're back to normal. If something like this were to occur during a scientific study, everyone can do nothing, but one person can do something. Extreme. That's called noise. That is the exception and the disruption. And when you're as scientific as you are today, of course you don't investigate the exception and the disorder, but rather the statistical majority. A cheeky saying goes that extraordinary is only extraordinary as long as it is rare for you. So in all my mystical years, I increasingly changed my circle of friends. Now clairvoyance is no longer rare. Now healing of the sick is no longer rare. And I'm just a normal guy in my mystic layer again. I'm also fair and often post texts by the Forest Mystic as a guest article. She's written a lot of great lyrics again, but I also think no, too lazy. So that's my wish, that I annoy you with physical phenomena until you say, I want it too. That was the shock when the lovely course participants came to see me in Kiel at the weekend. They wanted to learn telepathic communication. And actually, the only learning goal planned was trees. And then they constantly went over the partner exercise and reported on what had already worked. And then we stuck with the group's desire to communicate telepathically with people and read out, clairvoyantly, people. It turned out so well that they didn't have time to think. They were simply fascinated. Only at the end of the seminar was there a huge hangover feeling again, for heaven's sake. What was that? Will this stop now? Will this continue? I am lonely. So, and now, my thesis on the whole thing. So in this context, I've actually said the same thing several times. It is in this context that I now place the debate about human lifespan. It should be clear that the statistical majority will simply grow old and die in the same ways as the statistical majority does. But from then on, as you formulate mystically evil, you fiddle with yourself, namely with your lifespan, with your body energy. Yes. Do you of course also have tools to change your lifespan? So I don't want to depress you. I just gathered up a lot of literature that I still had around, so to speak, the best of on this topic. I'll start with the book by the Dr. Ellen Langer, Counterclockwise, Mindful Health and the Power of Possibility. That will still be the most recognized. Because, of course, a person like Deepak Chopra, who is a doctor after all, and is part of the spiritual establishment, also has a topic like Anselm Grün, who writes about everything. I have to write a book at some point. What's it called? Staying Young is Better for the Rest of Your Life. Then, that's actually towards cutting-edge knowledge. As far as I know, only in English. Return to the Brain of Eden. These are all seemingly physical miracles that are waiting for you. When you have largely repaired the cultural damage to yourself, i.e., eat little, hardly have to sleep, live with a completely different hormone, we will encounter that again in the book The Valley of the 100-Year-Olds. So there are still 50 to 60-year-old women giving birth and 120-year-old men having children. So one sounds absurd and the other is proven. And here is restoring the connection between neurochemistry and consciousness in my miserable American English. Other books that I include are Ricardo Kohler, so only with an O, but otherwise with C for cool, The Valley of 100-Year-Olds. I'll go into it straight away and sort it all out. There are 5 blue zones here on Earth where people grow particularly old. And that, of course, attracts these aging researchers, but also tons of television crews and top journalists and film crews. And so this is one of the important blue zones in Ecuador. Vilcabamba, I hope I pronounced it correctly, i.e. the Valley of the 100-Year-Olds. And I mean it seriously. I don't know whether they've developed it so much for tourism that the energy in the valley has been ruined. But from my point of view, there are different factors. But you either need to rebuild a lot of life energy through meditation, such as Wonder Hands and Elephant Course. What we are suffering from, as I picked it up in a book, is civilization disease. So fatal diseases, very often like Ose. And that is civilization that we are securing in this way. And Vilcabamba, so above all proven, there is also a doctor and you talk to him. Tourists also come there who, for example, have extreme heart failure, so they didn't grow up. And the heart will be healthy again. And even if natives from the valley, they also work in other cities for a long time and transfer the money to their families who live there in the valley. They then also get civilization disease. So it's not just the genes, but there's something going on in the valley. So this is a journalistic, heartfelt report about one of the 5 blue zones. And then we have it. And this is here, one of the nice books that I had accumulated, Ikigai. This is again one of the blue zones, namely this Japanese island of Okinawa and the village of Ogiwi there. There are a few journalists here who also wanted to put together why do they live longer and how, and not what are we doing wrong. And now I'll get into it a little more systematically. First of all, I'll list these 5 blue zones again. Afterwards, I will briefly introduce some extremely long-lasting ones with names and dates to prove how they really exist and existed. I'll take a closer look at some of them using the Valley of the 100-Year-Olds as examples, and then also this island of Ogiwi. And of course, at some point there is Sabine's interim comment or the comment at all. The 5 blue zones, again. And sometimes it is different. Sometimes the women there reach the highest age, and in the Valley of the 100-Year-Olds the women die first, and then reach old age. Well, not that you... Now you have to go back to beautiful gender. Not that you're heading to the wrong place now. So Okinawa in Japan, especially the north of the island. And I'll leave out the individual factors that are suspected. Then Sardinia in Italy, primarily the provinces of Nuoro and, Gliastra. Then California, Loma Linda. Of course, there is also a group of Seventh-day Adventists. Perhaps certain things contribute to this. Then Costa Rica, the Nicoya Peninsula. There are many residents over 90 years old and extremely vital. And then they get up at 5:30 in the morning and do their field work fresh and cheerful for hours. And for me, that is the crowning glory of Ikaria in Greece. For me, it was a total phenomenon. Just feeling this energy there and exchanging it and then wandering around and filming is amazing. So, this island is near the Turkish coast. The third resident is over 90 years old. In Spain, however, not even 1% of the population reaches this age. And the island actually has the name Island of Longevity. Because some of the aging researchers say, oh, the relief, the progress, that brings us increasingly old age and health. So, you can bend that. For example, the island of Ikaria is so boring for the young people who grow up there that they leave the island as quickly as possible to study on the mainland or somewhere else in Europe. So the parents are actually pretty much left alone. It's too boring for them and there's not enough progress. Thank you for watching.